My laptop pinged softly on my cluttered desk in my Austin apartment, the glow of an email notification cutting through the quiet. I clicked it open, expecting another vendor confirmation for my sister's wedding. Instead, my heart stopped. The words stared back at me, cold and sharp. "Lily, you don't fit the vibe of my wedding. Please don't come. I'm Lily Harper, 32, a freelance interior designer in Austin, Texas, who lives for turning spaces into stories. For 4 months, I'd poured my soul into planning Sophie's wedding, my little sister, the one I'd always looked out for. Venue, decorations, catering, every detail crafted with love, all on my dime. And now, with one email, she'd sliced me out of her big day. I read it again, my stomach twisting like a knot. Not fit the vibe? I'd spent late nights sketching bohemian table settings, calling in favours for the perfect rustic barn venue, making sure her day would sparkle. My hands hovered over the keyboard, itching to fire back to demand why. But something stopped me. My chest tightened, not with tears, but with a spark of defiance. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling of my cosy loft. Sophie's words echoed, each one a jab at my worth. I could have called her, screamed, begged for answers. Instead, I opened a new tab and searched for flights to Santa Barbara, California. A week from now, when her precious wedding fell apart, my phone would light up with calls I wouldn't answer. I'd be gone, sipping coffee by the ocean, far from her chaos, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's rewind to how this all started, because trust me, it's a story that'll hit you hard. If you've ever felt pushed out by family, drop your story in the comments below and hit that subscribe button for more real, raw moments like this. Sophie's email still burned in my mind. Those words, "You don't fit the vibe," looping like a bad song. I sat at my desk, surrounded by sketches and fabric swatches, the remnants of 4 months spent building her dream wedding from the ground up. I'm Lily Harper, a 32-year-old interior designer in Austin, Texas, and I've always believed spaces should tell a story. For Sophie, my little sister, I wanted her wedding to tell a story of love, of family, of us. But she'd rewritten that story without me. For months I'd thrown myself into her big day. I found the perfect venue, a sprawling barn just outside Austin, with rolling hills and a golden hour glow that screamed Texas charm. I spent hours designing a bohemian setup, wooden tables draped with linen, wildflower centerpieces bursting with colour, and string lights to make the night feel like a dream. I wanted Sophie to walk into that space and feel like she was home, like our childhood summers chasing fireflies. I called in every favour I had. Maria Lopez, the best caterer in town, agreed to craft a menu of smoked brisket, jalapeno cornbread and peach tarts, a nod to our southern roots. Ethan Brooks, a photographer whose work I'd admired for years, promised to capture every moment, from the vows to the first dance. Claire Nguyen, the event coordinator, became my late-night sounding board, helping me nail down logistics, from guest seating to the exact shade of sage green for the napkins. Every contract had my name on it, my reputation backing it, my heart woven into every detail. I did it all for free. Sophie was my sister, and family was supposed to mean something. I juggled my design clients, pushed deadlines, and burned through my savings to make sure her day was perfect. My phone buzzed constantly, vendor confirmations, last-minute tweaks, my inbox a flood of invoices and mood boards. I barely slept, but I didn't care. Seeing Sophie's face light up, imagining her twirling under those lights, that was worth it. Or so I thought. Her email changed everything. Not fit the vibe. I stared at the sketches on my desk, the ones I'd stayed up until 3 a.m. perfecting. My hands shook, not with sadness, but with a quiet rage. I'd given her everything, my time, my skills, my love, and she'd tossed it aside like it was nothing. I wanted to call her to scream, "What vibe? The one I built for you?" But I didn't. I just sat there, letting the hurt settle into something sharper, something that felt like resolve. I wasn't going to beg to be part of her day. Not anymore. But I wasn't ready to walk away completely, not yet. That moment was coming, and when it did, it would change everything. Sophie's email sat heavy in my chest, like a stone I couldn't shake off. I'm Lily Harper, 32, an interior designer in Austin, Texas, who'd spent 4 months pouring my heart into my little sister's wedding, only to be told I didn't belong. I couldn't just sit there stewing in that hurt. So I picked up my phone and called my mum, Diane Harper, hoping she'd see how wrong this was. My voice was steady, but inside I was crumbling. "Mum, did you know Sophie doesn't want me at her wedding?" I asked, gripping the phone tight. There was a pause too long before she answered. "Lily, it's her day," she said, her tone soft but edged with that familiar don't push it vibe. "She's under so much pressure. Don't take it personally." I froze, my breath catching. Don't take it personally. I'd spent thousands of dollars, countless nights, making Sophie's dream real, and Mum was brushing it off like I'd spilled coffee on a napkin. I pressed her, my voice sharper now. "She said I don't fit the vibe, Mom. What does that even mean?" Another pause. "Just let her have this, Lily. It's not about you." I hung up, my pulse racing, stunned that she'd chosen Sophie's side without a second thought. I wasn't done yet. I needed to hear it from Sophie herself. I dialed her number, my hands trembling but my voice calm. "Sophie, what's going on?" "Why am I not invited?" I asked. Her reply came quick, clipped, like she'd rehearsed it. "Look, Lily, Ryan and his friends want a certain aesthetic. You're too bohemian, too loud. It's not personal, okay?" Not personal. My blood boiled. I'd built her entire wedding from scratch. Every wildflower, every string light, every damn detail. And now I was the misfit. I pushed back, my voice rising. "I'm your sister, Sophie. I've been killing myself for your wedding, and you're saying I don't belong." She sighed, like I was the one being difficult. "Lily, it's my call. Just drop it." I could hear Ryan's influence in her words, his fancy friends wanting a polished Instagram-perfect crowd. I was collateral damage, tossed aside to keep their guest list pristine. "You're choosing his vibe over me?" I asked, quieter now, the hurt sinking in. She didn't answer, just muttered something about limited seats and hung up. I stared at my phone, the silence louder than her words. 4 months of my life, my love for my sister, discarded because I didn't match their vision. The next blow came from my dad, Michael Harper. He called the next evening while I was sorting through vendor invoices, my desk a mess of contracts with my name on every one. His voice was calm, but it carried that old-school expectation I knew too well. "Lily, we need to talk about the wedding gift," he said. I braced myself, already sensing trouble. He explained that Sophie and Ryan were expecting a big gesture, a $4,000 contribution toward a luxury Caribbean cruise for their honeymoon. My jaw clenched. I'd already sunk my savings into their wedding, and now they wanted more. "Dad, I'm not paying for that," I said, my tone flat but firm. "I've done enough." His voice hardened. "Lily, this is for family. You can't just opt out." I pushed back, my anger spilling over. "I'm not even welcome at the wedding, Dad. Why should I fund their honeymoon?" He scoffed like I was being petty. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. Be a team player." I hung up, my heart pounding. His words echoed Mum's. Family first, my feelings last. I wasn't just hurt. I was furious. They expected me to bankroll their celebration while shoving me out the door. Then came the final straw. My phone pinged with an Instagram notification from my cousin, Jason Reed. It was a post from a trendy Austin bar, the Driskill, showing him clinking glasses with Sophie, Ryan, and a crowd of their friends. The caption read, "Epic bachelorette bash with Sophie and Ryan. Our wedding vibes." My stomach dropped. I wasn't just uninvited to the wedding. I was erased from their entire circle. Jason hadn't even texted me, not a word. I scrolled through his story, watching clips of them laughing, toasting, planning the day I'd built from the ground up. Every smile felt like a slap. I messaged Jason, keeping it short. Hey, saw your post. Was I supposed to be there? His reply came too fast, too casual. Oh, Lily, it was just a small thing. Didn't think you'd care. Didn't think I'd care? I'd been up nights coordinating their vendors, double-checking menus, ensuring every detail was flawless. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, tempted to let him have it, but I stopped. He didn't get it. None of them did. I closed the app, my chest tight with betrayal. The people I'd poured my heart out for had cut me out, and now they were flaunting it online. I looked at the contracts on my desk, Maria's catering agreement, Ethan's photography schedule, Claire's logistics plan, all signed by me. I'd called in every favour, spent my own money, and they thought I was disposable. Dad's demand for $4,000 replayed in my head, alongside Jason's carefree post. They weren't just excluding me, they were using me. But I was done letting them walk all over me. A decision was forming, one that would turn their world upside down. I sat in my Austin loft, staring at the stack of vendor contracts on my desk, each one a reminder of the 4 months I'd poured into Sophie's wedding. I'm Lily Harper, 32, an interior designer who'd thought family meant everything, until my sister, my parents and my cousin showed me it didn't. Sophie's email, Mom's dismissal, Dad's demand for $4,000, Jason's Instagram post. They all swirled in my head, a storm of hurt and betrayal. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was done. I needed to talk to someone who'd get it, so I met my best friend, Rachel Kim, at a cozy coffee shop on South Congress Avenue. The place hummed with the usual Austin crowd, musicians strumming guitars, locals sipping oat milk lattes, but I barely noticed. I slid into the booth, my laptop open to a spreadsheet of wedding plans, and spilled everything. Rachel, they're treating me like I'm nothing, I said, my voice low but steady. I told her about Sophie's email, how she said I didn't fit her wedding's vibe, how Mum brushed me off. Dad demanded money for a honeymoon I wasn't invited to celebrate, and Jason partied with Sophie like I didn't exist. Rachel listened, her eyes narrowing as she sipped her latte. When I finished, she leaned forward, her voice sharp but warm. Lily, you've been running yourself ragged for them. Why are you still managing their wedding? Her words hit me like a jolt. I hadn't even thought about walking away, not fully. I'd been so caught up in proving my worth, in holding on to the idea of family, that I hadn't considered stopping. Rachel pointed at my laptop. You signed those contracts, right? With Maria Lopez, Ethan Brooks, Claire Nguyen? I nodded. Every agreement had my name on it, my reputation as an interior designer backing it. Then you have the power, she said. You don't owe them anything. Let Sophie figure it out. Her words lit a spark in me. I'd spent months coordinating every detail. Maria's brisket menu, Ethan's shot list, Claire's seating charts, all out of love. But love wasn't what I got back. Rachel was right. I didn't have to keep carrying their weight. I opened my email, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, testing the idea. What if I just stop? I said, half to myself. Rachel grinned, her eyes bright. Exactly, Lily. Let them deal with the mess. You deserve better. For the first time in weeks, I felt a rush of clarity, like the fog in my head was lifting. I wasn't going to beg for a seat at a table that didn't want me. I started drafting emails to Maria, Ethan and Claire, keeping it professional but firm. Due to personal reasons, I'm stepping back from managing the wedding. Sophie will take over from here. I didn't owe them an explanation, but I wanted to protect my professional ties. I hit send, my heart pounding with a mix of nerves and freedom. Maria replied almost instantly, her email laced with confusion. Lily, you're the one holding this together. You sure about this? Ethan called, his voice concerned. We're on track because of you. Sophie's not ready for this. Claire texted, asking if I was okay. I thanked them but held my ground, not responding to their follow-ups. My decision was final. That night I sat in my apartment, the quiet wrapping around me like a blanket. No calls from my family, no apologies, just silence. I opened my laptop again, this time to a travel site, and searched for flights to Santa Barbara, California. The idea had been simmering since Sophie's email, but now it felt real. I wasn't running away, I was choosing myself. I found a flight leaving Austin the morning of the wedding, landing in Santa Barbara by noon. I pictured myself on Montecito Beach, the ocean breeze washing away the weight of my family's rejection. My finger hovered over the book button, my pulse racing with defiance. I clicked it. The confirmation email pinged, locking in my escape. I called Rachel to tell her. "I'm out," I said, my voice lighter than it had been in months. "I'm going to California." She laughed, her voice triumphant. "Good for you, Lily. Let them figure out their own wedding." I hung up, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. My family thought they could use me and toss me aside, but I was done playing their game. I wasn't just stepping back, I was walking away, leaving them to face the consequences of their choices. Santa Barbara was waiting, and for the first time, I was putting myself first. The morning of Sophie's wedding, I sat at Austin Bergstrom Airport, a coffee cup warming my hands, my boarding pass to Santa Barbara tucked in my pocket. I'm Lily Harper, 32, an interior designer from Austin, Texas, who'd spent 4 months building my sister's dream wedding, only to be told I didn't belong. I'd handed over the reins to Sophie, stepped back from the chaos I'd been holding together, and now I was hours away from landing in California, leaving their mess behind. My phone stayed quiet, no apologies, no last-minute pleas from my family. I wasn't surprised. They'd taken me for granted for so long, they probably thought I'd still swoop in to save the day. They were wrong. Back in Austin, the barn venue I'd so carefully chosen was falling apart. Claire Nguyen, the event coordinator, called Sophie that morning, her voice tight with panic. Without my oversight, the setup was a disaster. The wildflower centerpieces I'd designed with such care were half finished, replaced with mismatched vases that clashed with the bohemian vibe. The string lights I'd spent weeks planning were tangled, some not even working, leaving the barn dim and underwhelming. Guests started arriving, whispering about the sloppy decor, snapping photos that would soon flood social media with complaints. Maria Lopez, the caterer, was dealing with her own nightmare. The menu I'd finalised, smoked brisket, jalapeno cornbread, peach tarts, was botched. Without my coordination, the wrong dishes showed up. Limp salads instead of hot barbecue, no desserts, and a complete mix-up with the vegan options. Guests grumbled, some posting snarky comments online about tacky food at a so-called fancy wedding. Maria left Sophie a voicemail, her tone sharp but professional. Lily had this locked down. What happened? Sophie had no answer. She was drowning, trying to manage a team that no longer had a leader. Ethan Brooks, the photographer, was equally lost. The shot list I'd crafted, golden hour portraits, candid dances, was nowhere to be found, and he was left scrambling to capture moments that didn't exist. The barn, meant to glow with romance, looked half-baked, and guests were leaving early, muttering about the disorganised mess. Sophie and Ryan stood at the centre of it all, fielding complaints while trying to keep their smiles plastered on. Then, during a tense moment by the bar, Ryan snapped at Sophie, his voice carrying over the crowd. "This is on you. You said you could handle it without her." Sophie fired back, blaming him for wanting a classier guest list. Their argument spilled out, raw and public, as guests stared, their perfect image crumbling. Meanwhile, I sat at my gate in Austin, watching planes taxi outside the window. My phone started buzzing. First a text from Mum. "Lily, the wedding's a mess." "Call me." Then Dad, "Where are you? Fix this." Sophie sent a string of messages, each more desperate. "Lily, the vendors are freaking out. You need to help." I stared at the screen, my coffee cooling in my hand. They'd ignored me for months, dismissed my work, my worth. Now, when their big day was imploding, They wanted me to swoop in like some fairy godmother. I silenced my phone, slipping it into my bag. I wasn't their safety net anymore. As I boarded the plane, another text came through. This one from an unknown number, probably a guest. "This wedding's a joke. Where's the planner?" I didn't reply. The flight attendant called for takeoff, and I leaned back, closing my eyes. I could almost see the chaos unfolding back in Austin, the half-empty tables, the wrong food, the dim lights. Sophie and Ryan were likely still bickering, their voices drowned out by guest complaints. Claire, Maria and Ethan were probably scrambling to salvage what they could, but without me it was a lost cause. The barn, meant to be a glowing celebration, was a patchwork of mistakes. A tiny pang of guilt flickered in my chest, but it faded fast. They'd made their choices, excluding me, using me, dismissing me, and I'd made mine. Rachel's words echoed in my head. "You have the power." For once I was using it for myself, not them. My family expected me to clean up their mess, but I was done being their fallback. The plane's engines roared, and I felt a weight lift like I was shedding their expectations with every mile we climbed. Santa Barbara was waiting, and I was ready to leave their chaos behind. The plane touched down in Santa Barbara, and as I stepped off, the ocean breeze hit me like a warm embrace. I'm Lily Harper, 32, an interior designer from Austin, Texas, who'd left behind a wedding I'd built for my sister Sophie, only to be told I didn't belong. I'd walked away from her chaos, from my family's demands, and now I was here in California, with nothing but my suitcase and a chance to breathe. I checked into a small boutique hotel just steps from Montecito Beach, my room overlooking the Pacific's turquoise waves. For the first time in months I felt light, like I'd shed the weight of vendor emails, family guilt, and that stinging email from Sophie. My first morning, I wandered along Montecito Beach, the sand cool under my feet, the horizon stretching endless and free. Tourists snapped photos, surfers glided on waves, and I let the ocean's rhythm pull me away from the resentment I'd been carrying. I wasn't ready to forgive my family, not yet, but I wanted to let go of the anger. I stumbled across a flyer for a beachside painting class at a local art studio, and signed up on a whim. The instructor, Elena Torres, a soft-spoken woman with a painter's smock and a kind smile, guided us through mixing colours to capture the sunset. "Paint what you feel," she said, her voice steady and grounding. I dipped my brush in ochre and blue, letting the hurt, Sophie's rejection, Mom's dismissal, Dad's pressure, Jason's indifference, spill onto the canvas. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Back at the hotel, I started a journal. I wrote about the months I'd spent building Sophie's wedding, the sting of being sidelined by the people I loved most. But I also wrote about the waves, the way Elena's words made me feel seen, the way the paintbrush felt like an extension of my heart. Writing became my anchor, a way to process without breaking. I wasn't crying or raging anymore. I was rebuilding. My phone buzzed occasionally, texts from Mom, Dad, even Sophie, but I didn't open them. Their urgency didn't matter here. I was done being their problem solver. On my third day, I joined a meditation group on the beach, led by a local named Kai, whose calm presence felt like a balm. We sat in a circle under a pink and gold sky, breathing in time with the waves. "Let go of what doesn't serve you," Kai said, and I tried. I closed my eyes, picturing Sophie's email, Mum's cold words, Dad's demands. With each breath, I felt them loosen their grip just a little. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. Then Rachel, my best friend, texted me a link. "Check this out," she wrote. It was an article she'd published on a popular online magazine, titled, "Designer Excluded from Sister's Wedding Speaks Out." My heart raced as I read it. Rachel, a freelance journalist, had interviewed me before I left Austin, weaving my story into a raw, honest piece about family dynamics and standing up for yourself. She didn't name Sophie or my family, but the truth was clear. I'd poured my heart into a wedding that didn't want me, and I'd chosen to walk away. The article was spreading fast, with hundreds of comments from strangers sharing their own stories of being undervalued, of setting boundaries with family. "You're so strong, Lily," one wrote. "Don't let them dim your spark," said another. My inbox filled with messages from readers, some offering support, others asking for advice on saying no to toxic expectations. I wasn't alone anymore. Rachel's article had turned my pain into something bigger, a rallying cry for anyone who'd been pushed aside. I texted her back, my fingers shaky with gratitude. "You're incredible. Thank you." She replied with a simple heart emoji, no words needed. I kept exploring Santa Barbara, renting a bike to ride along the coast, the salt air filling my lungs. I stopped at food trucks for fish tacos and lavender lemonade, letting the city's vibrancy, palm trees swaying, street musicians playing, wrap around me like a gift. One evening, I joined a sunset yoga session on the beach, stretching under a sky painted in purples and oranges. With every pose I felt stronger, more grounded. My journal grew thicker, pages filled with reflections on what I deserved, not what my family thought I owed them. My phone kept buzzing, missed calls from Mom, Dad, Jason, even a few from numbers I didn't recognise, probably wedding guests. I didn't answer. Their messages piled up, but I didn't care to read them. I'd spent too long trying to please them, bending over backward to make them happy. Now I was choosing me. Rachel's article had shown me my story mattered, that I wasn't wrong for walking away. The support from strangers online felt more real than my family's last-minute desperation. I wasn't ready to confront them, and maybe I never would be. For now, Santa Barbara was enough. The ocean, the painting, the yoga, the quiet moments alone, they were stitching me back together piece by piece. I wasn't hiding from my problems. I was rediscovering my worth, learning to love the woman I saw in the mirror, the one who didn't need anyone's approval to shine. 2 weeks after my escape to Santa Barbara, I stepped back into my Austin apartment, the faint scent of ocean air still clinging to my clothes. I'm Lily Harper, 32, an interior designer who'd left behind a wedding I'd built for my sister Sophie, only to be told I didn't belong. Santa Barbara had given me clarity, a chance to rebuild away from my family's toxic expectations. I set my suitcase down, the quiet of my loft wrapping around me like a hug. My phone was a flood of notifications, missed calls, texts, voicemails from Mom, Dad, Sophie and Jason. I didn't open them. Their words couldn't undo what they'd done. I was ready to move forward, not back. That evening, Rachel, my best friend, called, her voice buzzing with news. "Lily, you won't believe what's happened," she said. She'd heard through mutual friends that Sophie and Ryan had called off their engagement. The disastrous wedding, half-finished decor, wrong food, dim lights, had been the breaking point. Guests had complained openly, their social media posts tearing apart the tacky setup. Sophie and Ryan's public argument that night, raw and ugly in front of everyone, had exposed cracks in their relationship that couldn't be fixed. Ryan blamed Sophie for pushing me out, while Sophie blamed him for demanding a classier vibe. I listened, my heart steady, not surprised. They'd built their day on my work, then discarded me. Now they were facing the fallout. Then came the twist. A text from my cousin Jason popped up, one I almost deleted but opened out of curiosity. "Lily, I'm sorry. I didn't know the whole story," it read. "Sophie was scared you'd steal Ryan's attention. He had a thing for you back in college." My breath caught. I sat down hard on my couch, the words sinking in. Sophie hadn't just excluded me for some vague vibe. She'd been jealous, haunted by a years-old crush Ryan had on me, one I'd never even noticed. She'd pushed me out to protect her own insecurities, letting her fear rewrite our bond as sisters. The revelation didn't make me angry. It made me sad. Not for her, but for the family we could have been if she'd trusted me instead of tearing me down. Mum left voicemails, her tone softer now, asking to meet. Dad sent texts, insisting we talk like adults. Jason's message was vague, half apologising for the wedding's failure like I should have fixed it. I deleted them all. I'd spent years bending to their demands, sacrificing my peace to keep them happy. No more, I wasn't angry, just resolute. Cutting them off wasn't about spite. It was about protecting myself. I blocked their numbers one by one, feeling lighter with each tap. My apartment, once a hub of stress and vendor calls, became my sanctuary. Rachel's article, still circulating online, changed everything. My inbox overflowed with inquiries from clients across Austin, inspired by my story and my work. A boutique hotel downtown wanted me to design their lobby, blending bohemian flair with Texas charm. A couple planning their wedding reached out, moved by how I'd stood up for myself. Even a tech startup hosting a gala asked for a consultation. I met them at a sleek office near Lady Bird Lake, pitching ideas for vibrant, soulful spaces. They signed a contract on the spot, my biggest yet. Rachel's words had turned my pain into opportunity, proving my worth to a world beyond my family. I started journaling again, not about hurt, but about growth. I wrote about the strength it took to walk away, to choose myself over people who didn't see my value. Each new project felt like a validation, not just of my skills as a designer, but of my decision to stop chasing approval. I wasn't the same Lily who'd spent months on a wedding that didn't want her. I was someone who knew her worth, who built boundaries stronger than any backdrop I'd ever designed. Looking back, I saw the lesson clearly. Respecting myself meant letting go of those who didn't, family or not. Sophie, Mum, Dad, Jason. They'd expected me to carry their weight, to stay silent when they pushed me out. I'd tried to be the perfect sister, the perfect daughter, but perfection came at too high a cost. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was right. Santa Barbara had taught me to breathe again, to paint, to write, to find joy in my own company. The support from strangers online, from Rachel, from new clients, it reminded me that I didn't need my family's validation to shine. Self-respect, I learned, was the foundation of everything. Without it, I'd still be chasing their approval, losing myself in the process. But with it, I was free to build a life that felt like home.